Going in three, two, one. Welcome to Fishbowl Sports. Joining me today is Bear. We're doing Ragin Cajun Baseball Opening Weekend recap and preview against Maryland coming up this weekend here. Ragin Cajun Softball, we'll talk about them as well, how they got their big win this past weekend over Ole Miss. They did do so good in the midweek against Florida State. We'll recap that as well. Raging Cajun men's basketball is going to tip off tonight against Arkansas State at 7 o'clock, which is actually right now. They should be tipping off right now. We'll have live updated stats for you for that game as well, and Raging Cajun women's basketball as well. Without further ado, let me introduce everybody to Bear. How you doing today, Bear?
Good. Fine.
It's been an interesting week here at the Fish Bowl, to say the least. You know, it definitely has been. So let's start talking about Raging Cajun baseball. Went 2 of 2 in their first 4 games. They lost the opening series to Missouri State, 2 games to 1. Then they got the midweek win against Rice here. My first concern was for the Raging Cajuns baseball team was the pitching, like for the opening weekend. Like the starters were fine, but then when you got to your relievers and stuff, they seemed like they lost kind of like pace at the end, let Saturday game away because that weren't there. The Cajuns should have won, and because I mean they ended up falling 12-13 there. I know you don't necessarily like focus in too much with the Cajuns, Bear, but you're kind of from an outside perspective. What you thought about that opening series with the Cajuns?
Well, they always say, good pitching always beats good hitting. I don't think they're not going to win. I the day them, I think, hopefully they can beat them.
So with Rice, they ended up winning that game 3-0. So the pitching looked like they came around during that midweek game here. I know Deggs like to play around the lineup, but so far this year he's kept the same lineup for 4 games, so he feels comfortable, I believe, in who he has in that lineup there. So I think that's kind of a good sign. If you are the Cajuns there, it's gonna take time. That like it's only 4 games into the season here. They got a 3-game series this weekend against Maryland. They're gonna go get at it at 6 o'clock tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday, the 21st here. If I do sound off, I am a little bit under the weather still. I've been fighting an upper respiratory virus right now, so you'll have to forgive me if you hear me like kind of my throat a little bit. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3-game series against Maryland. I think the Cajuns, they're 3-1. Maryland so far this year. Cajuns are 2-2 in that regard there. So it's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out against Maryland here. So far, um, the Cajuns are like we're waiting for men's basketball to start still in pregame there. Just kind of checking to make sure that everything is going well there so far. So that is something that we're kind of keeping an eye on here at the Fishbowl. So, with that being said, there, looking at the stats here for baseball to kick off the year, if you look at the stats here, the Cajuns definitely have some hitting. They score a total of, if you take the whole weekend series, which is our best analysis point that we have, combining all 3 games, they ended up scoring um 23 runs between those 3 games there. So that's thing there.
Hey, Mike was like, bring it to that. Hopefully they get something, they can turn it around and solve it.
Missouri,
Yeah,
yeah, Missouri State. I think this is their first year actually like getting the Conference USA. Um, so that's kind of like they're getting used to being in that regard there. Just kind of getting in there and just trying to figure it all out as it goes here. Now, looking at the stats between all the games so far, the guy that Colt Brown's leading the way for the Cajuns, hitting 313 so far. 16 at bats. He hasn't hit a home run yet. He has two RBIs. So, I mean, he does have something going there. Blaze Rodriguez, the talented runner shortstop that Dex compared to Kyle DeBarge. If you're familiar with Kyle DeBarge, he was a very good player for the Cajuns. About 2 seasons ago, he played in 2024 was his last year. He has four RBIs so far this year. So as a freshman hitting 308 in your first four collegiate games is actually pretty good, great start for him for this year so far. Uh, yeah. So like toward the bottom, some more of the like leadership, like Lee Amade, we kind of expected him to do a little bit better in the first four games. He's only hitting 188 so far, and he's one of the leaders of the team so far. He had 16 at bats so far. He's gotten three hits, one double, one triple so far, and he does have a home run. So hopefully he does. He got two RBIs on the year, so hopefully he does like uh get it back around. That's kind of the thing that, some of these guys are going to start off slow and they'll progressively get better as the season goes along. So hopefully Liamade, picks it up as the season progresses here. I'm thinking he will. Drew Markle, he's hitting 214 so far. So the lineup, they only got two guys over hitting over 300. Everybody else is kind of hitting below 250 and below.
Right. So,
So far as the team, Cajuns are hitting 242. Opponents are hitting 257. But I mean, granted, Uh, I mean, Missouri State like a team that could very well. I think they're going to finish that. A lot of people are going to give them credit for though, because I mean, I think they were picked like fifth or sixth in Conference USA, but they played a lot better here. I know, granted, it is one weekend series, and we don't really have a lot of information in terms of how these teams are going to play out there, but I think it is a very good thing that the Cajuns have going on so far season here. Now, like we look at the batting, let's go look at the fielding percentage here for the Cajuns here. So the Cajuns, if you look at their fielding here, it's kind of one of those things that the mouse is kind of slow. So if you look at the fielding here, I mean, this is where Amade shines. He's perfect so far in the field. Roberto Hernandez, he's perfect so far. Mandino's perfect so far. They haven't really made that many mistakes in terms of like fielding. Colt Brown has an error. Blaze Rodriguez, freshman 90. They're fielding at 969 as a team. So, I mean, between four games, you want to see that improvement from last year. They were kind of struggling out there in the field a little bit. Pitching wasn't quite what it was last year that they needed to be. So I think we're still going to watch the relievers because I think that's the problem with Cajun baseball last year. I mean, they could get the starters doing their job. They're getting them to 3 and 5 innings. They're getting their 5 innings of work, and they're getting out there. It seems like, but it just seems like the Saturday game. They should have had that game won because they had a very big lead, and then in the eighth inning, Missouri State dropped 5 runs in the eighth and scored two in the ninth to tie it up and force extra innings. And Missouri State was able to get 3 runs in the 11th. Cajuns were only able to pick up two, and that led to a
yeah.
13-12 loss. So that's the one that really got away. That's the one that stings the most, I think, this weekend because you had so much offense, and you be sitting here 3-1 going into the Missouri game, and you'd been in a whole like not really whole different situation. I mean, it's kind of early to say that there, but I do think they'll do all right here. After Maryland, you got Kansas State 4-0, then you see San Diego in the series right after that. So I think the Cajuns here. I think they could take 2 or 3 against Maryland. I think I'm gonna get them winning against Maryland at home. What you think, Bear?
Yeah, I give the advantage to the home team, so I think they'll get 2 or 3, but they need to kind of get they need to come up with
Yeah, I think that is one thing that we're gonna have to, just look at. It's not, it's the sky isn't falling yet. It's not a, It's not not like no how is it?
and
The,
like delicate.
you got to give Beth a break, bro. All right, let's go down to Ragin Cajun softball. So Ragin Cajun softball picked up a big win this past weekend over Ole Miss. They uh split it with Ole Miss in two games they played. Then they ran into a buzzsaw of Florida State. They played very well. They're 6-4 so far this year. 6-3 at home, 0-1 on the road. We don't know how good of a team this team still is. The jury's still out on that here. But Haley Hart's having a great start, hitting 517. They got bats this year. They got four players hitting over 400. So, I mean, they got bats. I'll tell you that much right now. They're hitting 344 as a team, and that's very hard to do.
Right.
That's a very the ones that are gonna come to it's just been the pitching, but the two starting pitchers they've had so far this year, they haven't really pitched that much in the last 2 years. So that's kind of like one thing we're gonna have to look at and see how all that goes there for them. I think they're gonna be okay. So far as a team, they're pitching their ERA is 352. Seen the most appearances is Sage Hoover. Her ERA is 452. She had 6 appearances, 2-1 record so far. I mean, they were just trying everything against Florida State. It just wasn't gonna work. It was an 8-0 loss, and it just wasn't the Cajuns' night. I'm gonna track that one up to be like that. I just think that Florida State's one of the best teams in the country. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's a it's kind of hard to say that yeah, like you're gonna go in there and win whenever on the road. And that's your first road game. It's tough going in there. So this past weekend, Cajuns lost the first game, like we alluded to. Then they beat Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Then they beat Ole Miss. Then they lost a game that they probably shouldn't have lost to, but it was a double header in that game, a 5-6 loss to Prairie View A&M. And they did respond on that Sunday by 23 nothing, beating Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Then they lost 8 nothing. Then they're gonna go to Baton Rouge tomorrow to take on Howard. They got a doubleheader tomorrow. Howard and Michigan State are the two teams they're going to play. Then that Saturday, they're going to take on Howard and LSU as well. I know you said, Bear, that you think they're going to beat LSU this weekend um, when we did the season preview. Now, what you think now that we've seen a couple of games?
But I think she did the best. Well, and
LSU hasn't really caught much of a fire this year. They're not the team that we thought they could be. I think the talent's there for LSU. They just I think it's kind of part coaching at this point. I think they just, you made all these offseason changes with the coaching staff at LSU, and it's hasn't really paid off for them. Now, granted, it is early, still early, not to write anybody off or anything, but it's definitely got to find something going on because that was about as a bad of a weekend LSU had with the Clearwater Invitational as you could possibly get.
yeah, I mean, I know it's still early in the year, but you go to Clearwater, Florida, play an invitation tournament against, depending on what polls you look at, least the ranked in from 22 to not ranked. You play against at least 15 teams, and you get shut out. So not this question pitching is there to hit it. Sierra Daniels leads the nation now. So yeah,
Yeah, I think that. Yeah.
that's why I think you know,
Everyone's Beth gone. I seen someone made the comment that the game has passed her by. And it kind of seems like, I mean, like every coach goes through that, right? Has the game passed them by and that kind of thing. It might be time, for to have that conversation there. Howard, Cajuns they win both games against Howard. I think. I think you're getting at least two games here. And now men's basketball is on their way. Arkansas State has an early lead 2-0. 19:47 left to go in the first here. Uh, for the Cajuns. This is the first game uh, that the Cajuns are playing. They lost the basketball legend this past week. I think on Monday. Bo Lamar.
Yeah.
Uh, great, great Ragin Cajun basketball player.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
I think he played before the 3-point line, if I remember right.
we did,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. Uh, and those like that's the weird thing about all those like he did analyst for you out for a couple of seasons ago and stuff. Just was very well respected in the Lafayette community, to say the least. Basically, yeah. So we'll keep that there. Cajun just missed a 3-point shot by Laverne Jackson.
yeah, there for 3 points.
But when they hit them threes, they're a very tough team to beat. It is Quantus White's first year, and I think they're getting two 4 stars coming in next year. So I'm kind of wondering how that's gonna because
Well,
some belt's not good at basketball. Like
no,
um
pretty much did it. They get 30 line for 42%, 31% of the team. Or
yeah. Okay, we got a tie game 2-2. 18:40 left to go. Louisiana versus Arkansas State. Cajuns are at home tonight, so that I was gonna try to go to the game yesterday. I was gonna go today, but I'm not feeling the best anyway. But I will try to be there Saturday, God willing. So that's what the plan is for the weekend for here at the Fishbowl. So anyway, just we were talking about softball here. I think Cajuns take 3 of 4 this week. I think they'll beat I don't think they're gonna drop Michigan State or drop LSU. That's kind of well, I don't want to write off LSU, but I'm feeling better about the Cajuns taking on LSU than I did before the season. I was worried about the bats for the Cajuns this year. Where they're gonna come around? They're hitting a lot of ball there. Uh, if I think they're gonna give LSU pitching fits. I think because
hey, no, I'm afraid of speed.
yeah, they do have some guys that they do have some like guys. They do have some girls that could actually hit the long ball though too. I think they got like a good mix of like power and speed, and that's what you need in softball. So
Break speed, stations. The pressure on the defense, force them into understand.
a player that's having a slump right now is Emily Smith. She was the Sun Belt Newcomer of the Year last year for the Cajuns, and she just hasn't really. She's hitting a sophomore slump, but I'm expecting her to turn around. She is one of the Cajuns' power hitters. Last year she had a lot of home runs. This year it hasn't really worked out in her favor so far, so that is something we're all gonna have to kind of look at.
Yeah,
Hopefully she turns it around, but that's just something we're gonna have to look at to see how it all goes there. So with that being
I,
Yeah, so with that being said, we'll move on to Raging Cajun men's basketball. Like I said, they're underway right now. They looked like they were on a stretch and they were on a hot run, and then all of a sudden they lost that game this past weekend. And it kind of like felt like it kind of took the wind out of their sails a little bit, because they were running a 4 game winning streak, and then they went play against Coastal last Thursday, like on last Thursday on the 12th. I was over there, and then when they lost, I was like, man, if I could feel like the energy be a little bit different when they left the floor. Then they followed it up on a Monday, a game that was rescheduled with Old Dominion. They lost that one 72-83, and they just them shots were not falling for them here, and their defense was kind of lacking against Old Dominion here. So hopefully they could win these next 2 games against Texas State and Arkansas State, because you got to try to get that 4 seed, and that's kind of tough to do whenever you're dropping games, right? So
Yeah.
to do that there, they need to try to like get get in there, because that 4 seed is very important in the Sun Belt. But the standings for the Sun Belt this year is so kind of stacked for basketball that it's a lot of teams like within 1 or 2 games of each other. I mean, you look at the first 4 teams here. The 4 of them got 5 losses. Cajuns kind of got dropped down with their 2 losses here, because they were right there smack dab in the middle of it at some point. They're 6-8, but they got 4 other teams that are 6-8. So right now, currently, Marshall sits fourth in the 4th seed. They're 9-5. Texas State's 9-6. Who the Cajuns have to play? Arkansas State 7-7. So this is a big game for them too. They're currently looking at the board right now. They are currently seventh, but they're 7-7. They're only 2 games back of Marshall, so that's where you want to be. Cajuns are 3 games back, so it could very well, flip it there. The Cajuns beat Georgia Southern. They're right there 7-7. So it's they have to win. I think tonight's almost a must win for the Cajuns, because this is your final 2 home games that you got here, and you got to try to do something here to give yourself that chance there. But right now, the Cajuns are like they're on a 9-0 run in the last 159 here, 9-2 lead they have with 16:42 left to go. Well, never mind, they just scored. Arkansas State got a layup, 9-4 immediate timeout. Jackson Alvera got 3, Finister got 2, Evans got 2, Laverne got 2 as well. Shout
Yeah.
Yeah, this seems very exciting to watch. I mean, even though they lose game, like the beginning, like so when the season started, they would have these like it seemed like they would just let games get away from them, and that's kind of what happened with these last 2 games. They reverted back to what they were doing beginning of the part of the season here. With their like it would be like 10 minutes to 6 minutes left. They let the other teams get on runs during that time frame. Was what I noticed. And when the shots ain't falling, they ain't falling at times. But they've done better at getting to the line and stuff and shooting free throws. So, but you got to make free throws too. That's another
Yeah.
thing.
Makes teams, so it's good.
Yeah, Cage is on a 12-2 run the last 3 minutes and 13 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
So that's you need to get those right. Well, I mean it. I hate to say it with the Sun Belt, but if you every Sun Belt team makes the conference tournament. If you
Yeah.
win, if you like your season is literally the Sun Belt Conference tournament. I mean, you could win the regular season championship at the NIT, but the NIT is not nearly as big of a deal as it was several years ago.
No.
Um, so if they can like right now, you could almost experiment if you're the Cajuns, if you know you're not going to get the 4 seed, but the 4 seed is definitely still up in play. So I mean, there's not much that you could say that like, hey, we like I feel like this Arkansas State game is a must win for them. That's 2. You got Troy, then Arkansas State again. That's 4 games you got left. So you basically almost have to win out at this point to even have a shot at that 4 seed. So and it's got to break your way. Like that loss against Ole Dominion really hurt the Cajuns. So if they could get up there and maybe get to the 6th or 5th seed, the 4 seed is important because you play one less game. it's like the cutoff. Like you play 3 games with the 4 seed. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of where they're at. That's kind of what the thinking is here. So with that being said, I hope they can pull it out tonight because I like seeing Coach Coach Q get all fired up. Because he's one that likes to rally the crowd. Like he'll throw his arms up and start pumping up the crowd himself, man. He's definitely a character. So let's move on to Ragin Cajun women's basketball here, and it's not much to talk about. This is kind of not the best situation for them. I know it's been a very disappointing season for them, but there's the chance, right, that you could win the tournament and go to the NCAA tournament. That's why you got to talk about them a little bit. You got to play the games. So with that being said, here, Cajuns are near the bottom of the Sun Belt right now. They're 2-14 in conference, 4-23 overall. It's just you're gonna have to try to find a way to win games. At the end here. At this point, I would experiment because you're not gonna gain any more spots in seeding of tournament. It's just not gonna happen. You get ahead of South Alabama, maybe Georgia State, App State already plays right for you, but it's it's really not looking very well for you to say the least. Not to put them down or anything, but you gotta start prepping for a Sun Belt Conference tournament at this point. Hopefully you can run the table and get a couple like upset wins. Just because we've seen 8 seeds and 9 seeds go on a run and win these conference tournaments. Bear like it could very well happen, and that's so the remaining schedule that the women have coming up here is Arkansas State and Georgia State coming up here. Um, they lost Wednesday against Southern Miss because they have beat South Alabama. So and then they got Arkansas State, Georgia State. That's a road game, and then they go to Pensacola for the Bell Conference Championship tournament. So we'll see how it goes there. I think they'll lose both these games here coming up. I think you just try to like look at the lineup and try to put your best players on there and just hope for the best at this point because I just don't think they're gonna win the tournament. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean this is not the way we want, and we might have a coaching change at the end of the season. So we'll see what happens with all that there. What do you think, Bear? Yeah. So I think that'll do it all for us here today. Anything you want to say before we get off here, Bear?
Well, to see what they're going to do.
Yeah. The home opener was last weekend. Um, and like it's always packed to the teak. It's you getting 3 or 4 thousand fans over there routinely. It's one of the best spots in college baseball. So, uh, I like to thank everybody for tuning in here. Go like us on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all that good stuff there. We got plenty of content coming your way here in the coming days and coming weeks. So, keep it tuned here. We'll be a great, wonderful night. We'll see you here next time here on Fishbowl Sports. Have a good night, Fishbowl Nation.
Not